equine artist Fred Stone paid a visit to Vancouver. We took our cameras out and paid him one in return. Let's go visit Fred Stone as he tells you how every picture tells a story.
Instead of taking the usual angle and just painting a horse running, I always want to think there's more to every horse. There's a story behind every horse. And to me, this horse is chasing the giants. I mean, it took a lot to do, and he still hasn't become the great horse in the minds of a lot of people. They're reluctant. So what I've done here is I've put him, he is now chasing the giants. It's called Pursuit of Greatness. And in the sky behind him is the great man of war with his groom, Will Harbert, and Secretariat with Ron Turcotte aboard. And that's what he's racing into immortality, and hopefully will become the legend that these horses are. All my pictures have a story, and I could get into a story on every one of them. This one's called The Final Thunder. The old Will Harbert, the groom who handled Man of War, he was his groom on the track from 1919 to 1922. In 1922, when the horse went to stud at Faraway Farms, Will Harbert gave up his life on the track to live his whole life out with the horse. He became his handler, his groom, and the only man to touch him until they both died together in 1947. The picture depicts the two of them standing in the sun, kind of looking up. And behind them, 26 years back in time, Man of War leads a field of horses. And the old man died of a heart attack in 1947, and within 5 days, the big horse died. He called him De Mostis Hoss.
Fred, you did John Henry, and it's like a classic for everybody involved with the racing industry.
John was probably in all the years, this is my 20th year painting the Sport of Kings. In those 20 years, John Henry to me has been the most exciting in that he, unlike most horses that people think of the Sport of Kings, they think of valuable horses with great stud fees, bringing big prices. Here was a horse that came from nothing, no breeding of any kind. I think he sold for $1,100. And it was the feeling that he created on the racetrack. And I'd be out in the walking ring just before I would stand with Chris McCarron before he'd mount up, and the crowds would gather, and you could see on the looks of the faces of these people, these were the working class, blue-collar people, everyday people who associated with this horse. Sometimes they just couldn't associate with the blue blood horses, with the expensive horses. This was their horse. This was the people's horse, the real John Henry. And they would start chanting, "John, John, you can do it, John, you can do it, John." And then they're chanting the louder, "John, John, John." We get louder and louder. And by the time Chris would saddle up and we walk through the turns, walk through the tunnel, and by the time we'd get out into the sunlight at Santa Anita, these chants became tremendous. And when you got out there was 60,000, 70,000 people screaming at the top of the lungs. And I think that's the most exciting thing that I've ever come across with regards to that.
Draws off to lead by 1.5 lengths as Galaxy Libra mounts a charge on the inside. Through the stretch, it's John Henry showing the way by 2. Galaxy Libra coming on second. Zor is now third. In deep stretch, John Henry leads. Galaxy Libra second.
You've done some murals.
The newest thing that I'm into today is through modern technology. And I always said there's the one thing I would never involve myself in was in a computer in any way, shape, or form. But today, through the work and through modern technology, the 3M company has come to me and asked that they wanted to work with me and my work to blow them up into murals, large murals, which I was very reluctant to do. So they made some samples, showed them to me, and today they are so magnificent. And we are putting them in all over the world, in racetracks, casinos, just everywhere you can think of.
Did you ever think it was going to get this big?
No, not at all. No, it just grew and grew and grew. It's become a wonderful world. I can best sum it up in what Red Smith, the great sports writer, American sports writer, said when he was interviewed just before he died on 60 Minutes. Mike Wallace said, "Red, you've been around, you've seen it all, the great ones, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Jesse Owen, Lou Gehrig. What's the most interesting thing in all your life of sports that you ever come across?" And Red said, "Easy." He says, "In all the sports I've covered, I learned everything I know about life on the backside of a racetrack," and that answers the question.